Few songs have hit as hard recently as Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. It's just a pop masterpiece that has cut across the culture at a time when few songs truly do anymore. When I heard it for the first time, I felt what I think everyone else felt.
Wait, what am I listening to?
Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, man.
That it was inescapably compelling. But why? And what makes that bridge so damn good?
Open your hearts and listen. We're about to get the bridge of our lives.
Together with my resident young person, Annika, this is how Driver's License works. The first thing that gripped me was the very beginning of the song, even before the music begins. The song starts with an invitation. The car door opens and the open door chime makes an ostinato, a phrase that repeats. It's an invitation because that chime is only heard when the keys are in the ignition of a car, meaning we're about to get into this car for a ride, and though muffled, it sounds like the engine is running. The chime isn't merely sound design either. It seamlessly morphs into the piano ostinato, that repeated note.
Just this note over and over again, I feel like it's like kind of heartbreaking and it draws you in.
Which represents the shift from the real world into a representational one, possibly one inside the singer's mind. This is confirmed with the first words of the song.
I got my driver's license last week.
There's a confessional quality to this, as if it's a diary entry. In fact, this was actually Olivia's real diary entry.
I was looking through my diary actually recently, and I literally wrote, I got my driver's license last week.
Which inspired the writing of the song.
I got my driver's license and I also got a song out of it.
Now, one aspect of getting in a car with someone is that immediately there is a sense of intimacy. Cars are pretty good at shutting out the outside world. In fact, in the absence of a recording studio, some sound engineers even recommend using a car to get a clean recording. The confessional intimate quality is further enhanced with Olivia's vocal delivery, which is almost a whisper. More on this from Annika.
Olivia's producer revealed her original intent for the vocals.
She originally wanted to sing it off falsetto.
Falsetto is basically a breathier, weaker version of head voice. I don't mean weaker in a negative way. Mechanically, the vocal folds aren't closing completely, so more air escapes, leading to a breathier sound. That breathiness means the singing doesn't project like head voice does. And so it sounds more fragile, perfect for a song about heartbreak.
But I've never felt this way.
This relates to a broader pop trend called whisper singing or whisperpop. Rolling Stone calls it music for the ASMR crowd, and credits Billie Eilish as the queen of whisperpop. So where did this style come from, and why do people love it? For a while, big belty sounds with impressive riffs were dominating the charts, so why is this understated style suddenly getting so much recognition? We can potentially trace whisperpop back to the rise of Lana Del Rey in 2010, and later the rise of Lorde. They both channel a more subdued, intimate sound. In 2015, Selena Gomez, with the help of songwriter Julia Michaels, made whisperpop even more popular with the release of Hands to Myself.
Can't keep my hands to myself.
And other whispery songs in the following years. Even Ariana Grande, who we know can belt and riff to the ends of the earth, chose to use some whisperpop in Thank You Next.
Thank you, next.
And breathy hushed vocals definitely existed before the 2000s. Julie London, Janet Jackson, and Feist, for example. But only in the last 10 years did this style spike in popularity. It's possible that the rise in streaming and listening to music through headphones encourages artists to explore a more understated delivery. Singers don't necessarily have to fill a concert hall with their voice these days. There are also theories that the music industry is trying to balance out all the chaos and noise in our world. When it seems like everyone is trying to shout louder than their neighbor, it can be calming and grounding to listen to soothing songs. And maybe that's part of why Olivia starts out with a whisper. She's trying to soothe herself after all the noise of the breakup.
After the self-soothing verses, Olivia's voice begins to open up, and we get this rising melody.
And I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one.
When Rick Beato listened to Driver's License, he noted this section's use of the sharp 4.
Oh, nice! You hear that sharp 4?
Which is a feature of the Lydian mode, which to me always felt somewhat aspirational. It's the same flavor of aspirational music that sometimes accompanied aspirational characters in musicals.
Look at this trove.
Like it's reaching up for something that is just out of reach. This aspirational section is just on 2 chords, but the next section contrasts this with 5 chords that come rapidly in succession, providing more urgency. That's even more supported by the melody she's singing, which is the 3rd, 2nd, and tonic notes repeated 4 times.
Guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me.
What does that mean when you go from the 3rd to the 2nd to the tonic, which in C major solfege is mi, re, do? Well, I actually made an entire video about that topic, but the short answer here is that it's a desire to settle down, and as she's repeating it 4 times, she's singing it somewhat ironically. The more she sings about believing her lover is going to settle down with her, the less settled it feels. That section's flurry is then followed by a deafening silence, underlining the word alone. Now to go back a second, the rising Lydian melody leading into the flurry of chords sounds to me like a typical build-up, which in songwriting is known as a pre-chorus. Now we'd expect that pre-chorus to then lead us into a chorus, but instead the pre-chorus drives up the tension only to drop us off in a cul-de-sac, a sparse, empty, musical dead end which you technically might call the chorus, but which doesn't sound very chorus-like. The song then continues with another verse and pre-chorus, but instead, this time, that pre-chorus leads us to the bridge. And because we haven't gotten a full-fledged chorus yet, that bridge is almost like the chorus we've been waiting for, which opens the floodgates of emotion. And so that's one reason the bridge has such a huge presence in the song. It's a bridge that does double duty as a chorus. Here's how it works. First of all, Olivia's voice opens up here in the bridge to a full-on belt,
Red light, stop signs.
which is a far cry from the whisper she began in. Here's what a whisper version might have sounded like.
Red light, stop signs.
It's almost as if the lens of a camera is opening up from close-up to a wide shot, and this widening view is supported with the lyrics, which on the surface are describing what is happening in the present around the singer as she's driving. But of course, underneath the surface, the red lights and stop signs are symbols of feeling blocked and closed off that mirror her inner reality. And the melody here somehow feels really epic. And I think the reason for that is she's playing on the universal taunting melody, also known on Wikipedia by its more technical name, nya 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 nya. Here's Annika with more on that.
The Nya Taunting theme has many different lyrics in the US.
Neener, neener, nana, boo, can't catch me. Treat, give me something good to eat.
Versions of this also show up in many nursery rhymes.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posy.
As well as some popular songs like Get Down from 6,
Get down, you dirty rascal, get down.
I Wonder If I Take You Home by Lisa and Colt Jam, In the Name of Love by Martin Garrix and Baby Rexha, and Toy Soldiers by Martika. It can be heard in movies,
I got a jar of dirt.
No king, la 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 la.
and in games.
La 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 la.
Other countries have different versions of this taunting theme, but most of them are relatively similar.
Ollie, Ollie, and free.
Now, if you want to know why is this melody universal and where does it come from, Leonard Bernstein gives a pretty good explanation and relates it to the actual physical properties of sound itself.
The harmonic series.
Believe it or not, every note of music you hear is multiple notes combining into one sound. And the reason for this is the way sound waves work. When you pluck a string, let's say the note C, that C string is vibrating as an entire string. But also to a lesser degree, it is simultaneously vibrating at twice the rate of that entire string. And to an even lesser degree than that, it's simultaneously vibrating at 3 times the rate of that entire string. And to an even lesser degree than even that, it's vibrating at 4 times the rate of the entire string, and so on and so on. And when you map out the notes that each of these rates of vibrations or harmonics is playing, you get these notes, which means every note of music you hear has all this info on top, or overtones, that contribute to the overall timbre or flavor of a sound. And because it's part of physics, these tend to be the notes that we naturally gravitate toward in music. And if you look at the 7 notes in the first 7 harmonics, other than that root note C, there are 3 other notes, E, G, and a really sharp A that's going towards B flat, but for our purposes, it's an A.
And so these 3 universal notes are handed to us by nature on a silver platter.
And those 3 other notes are what form the universal taunting melody.
A musico-linguistic universal.
Your baby stink breath, your baby stink breath.
And being universal, it's one of the first melodies kids pick up on. And if you continue going up the overtone series, the next note will be D. When you combine all these notes together, you get the pentatonic scale.
And presto, a new universal is given us, the 5-note or pentatonic scale.
And that's why the taunting melody's use of the pentatonic scale provides it with a certain childlike innocence. But in Driver's License, Olivia is now feeling taunted by the ghost of her memories, where all those hollow promises echo in her mind. And so the childhood taunting melody is actually sung not in a pentatonic scale, but in a diatonic scale. Even though it's just 2 more notes, those are the key ones which add the half step. So instead of the regular pentatonic version, Olivia retains the overall rhythmic and melodic shape of the melody, but changes the intervals from a minor third to a major third. And this whole step to a half step. And so this melody in the bridge is almost like the childhood taunting melody grown up.
Red light, stop signs, I still see your face in the...
And this idea of the taunting melody growing up is further supported by the use of the F word, which doesn't typically show up in the music of current Disney Channel stars, but which here perfectly underlines the sense of betrayal and disillusionment.
I think it's actually really cool that I did like sort of swear in my first song. I guess it's like, look at I'm an adult. I can like say I'm not an adult, but I'm like 17. Like
After the bridge, the arrangement takes us back to her voice and solo piano, just as the song began. This time, when she sings the settling down theme, the 3rd, 2nd, and tonic note, she starts it but then breaks the pattern, as if she can no longer maintain the illusion of hope. Much like in the last stage of grief, acceptance, in the last moments of the song, she learns to accept her fate, even resolving upward to indicate a sense of recovery, the beginning of the healing process, perhaps.
Guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me.
The final moment of devastation comes with the resolution at the end of the song, or rather, the lack of resolution. Though filled with heartache, the song has largely had a major key feel in B flat, leading us to believe that it would also end in B flat major.
You said forever, now I drive alone past your street.
However, instead the song ends on the relative minor, G minor. Further adding to this is the use of an inversion for that minor chord ending, whereas a solid minor chord would allow us to feel at least some amount of resolution. Putting it in first inversion, meaning that the 2nd note in the chord is now in the bass, means that the last chord of the song wants to go somewhere, but can't.
You said forever, now I drive alone past your street.
As if saying, sometimes in life we don't get that resolution, and life simply goes on. And ultimately that truth, harsh though it may be, holds our attention tight with its brutal honesty. The ride just ends, stranding us in the middle of nowhere. And yet, maybe it's that sense of deep quiet which finally allows us, with everything that has gone on in the world, to collectively grieve By delaying the chorus, then hitting us extra hard with a bridge designed to send us back to our primal selves, Olivia Rodrigo reminds us all of that moment when innocence is lost and turns it into a classic. Thank you for watching. I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon, and especially my new patrons, Andre Coelho and Cesar Merlos. I'd also like to thank my collaborator, Annika, who sang all the musical examples in this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe. I'm developing a lot of new videos that I wouldn't want you to miss. Hope to see you there. Peace.